Hey guys, uh, hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving celebration yesterday. We were able to have a great meal with some family that we don't get to see too often, so it was nice. I hope you all took time to thank God for the abundance of blessings that we're all able to enjoy in this great nation. Let's get to some of the headlines in the news. Uh, a lot of things happen when they think that you're focused on turkey and football, so a lot of news drops during the holidays. Like the news this week that that Biden was ordering the release of 50 million barrels of oil from our strategic reserves to help with the gas shortage, right? That's what we're being told. It's all over the news. 50 million barrels. Well, if you're just a casual observer and you don't really pay attention to this stuff real closely, that may seem like a lot of oil. You may think, wow, maybe that'll help bring gas prices down some. Maybe that's what they want you to think. But let me give you some facts. Okay, the United States consumes over 20 million barrels of oil each day. Yeah, 20 million barrels a day is what we use. So he released 2.5 days worth of oil, and he wants you to think that he's really done something, right? But wait, that's not the worst part. That's not the bad part of the story. You haven't heard the whole of it. 18 million barrels of that 50 has been sold to China. Yep. You hear that he's negotiated with China and Japan and several other nations to release some strategic oil reserves to help with the global oil shortage, right? Out of the 50 million barrels, 18 million has been sold to China. You can find that on the Fox Business Network, several different networks to show that. So the United States is going to get 32 million barrels of the 50, roughly 1.5 days worth of our oil consumption. It'll make you sick to your stomach, won't it? I mean, really, when you see what they're doing and how they try to play this narrative and get you to believe certain things, and then when you realize the facts, I mean, you don't have words sometimes. But that's what they're doing. Listen to how the companies and the governments and stock markets are connected, okay? This is a big story. That's why I bring it up. Try not to get aggravated with this stuff. Just try to bring you guys the truth. But listen to how everything's connected. Companies, governments, stock market, all of this, okay? Now, and it's because they're all in the back pocket of the World Economic Forum. We cannot forget this. We cannot forget. Never lose sight of this. Don't move on to the next news story and just forget this stuff, okay? Don't forget about the 2030 agenda, which everybody has signed on to. Don't forget about that. Don't forget about the meetings that they have every year where they discuss policy and how they're going to do things. You got to remember that stuff, okay? Now you can go to Market Watch. They show where crude oil dropped from $78 a barrel Wednesday to $68 a barrel today. Okay? It dropped $10 a barrel on the stock market. Now Barron's, that's who publishes all the stock market news. Go to Market Watch and then go to Barron's, compare the two, and you get a pretty good idea of what's going on with the market. So Barron's issues a report today saying that the drop was due to new strains of the COVID virus popping up and fears of another shutdown. That's what they said, okay? Now you watch. I'll bet anything, which I don't bet, but you get the point, that Jen Psaki is going to come out on the news, and she's going, all the channels, and she's going to say that because of the decision that the Biden administration made, oil prices are dropping, things are getting better. That's the narrative that they're going to push when it has zero to do with releasing a day and a half's worth of oil. Now, that's the truth. So that's what they're all saying, but Barron's and Market Watch tell a different story. All the new virus mutations that are popping up around the world scaring the market. So they think that There's going to be another shortage, right? There's going to be another shutdown. All the government's going to shut down. That's what they're trying to tell you. I may have already missed it. She may have already done it for all I know. But that's coming. Where they're going to take credit for this. Where that's not a drop in the bucket. That's nothing. That's not even worth a news story a day and a half worth of oil. Really? But it dropping like that is really going to give them a good excuse to take credit for that. But that's coming. You guys can watch that. They're all working together. This New World Order program has been started. You guys know that. If you listen to this, then you're pretty educated on this stuff. You know it. All this stuff's been started. You see where all the car companies have signed on to the 2030 agenda. All this different stuff is happening, and they're all together on it. And that's what we have to keep sight of. They expect us to not pay attention to what's really going on behind the curtain, right? To steal the Wizard of Oz, play on words there. Just watch the guy out front. Don't look behind the curtain. Don't pay attention to what's really going on. That's what they want you to do. But they're going to further their agenda. It's going to happen. There's no stopping it. It's like a snowball going downhill now. 90% of everything that you see in politics, the stock market, the medical field, environmental issues, all of it is fueled by propaganda. They're putting forth a narrative, a certain thing that they want you to believe, and it's all intertwined. We have to remember that when we look at this stuff, okay? It all has to fit into the same mold. A one world government, a one world money, a one world religion. That's where we're headed. And it will happen because the Bible tells us that. The Bible tells us exactly what's going to happen, and it's never been wrong. So this is going to happen, and we're in these beginning stages, and we have to pay attention. What we have to do is we have to be aware of what's going on. We have to stay informed. We have to stay educated on the issues so we can be a watchman on the wall, right? Just like we read about in Ezekiel is where we get that phrase from. That's what he tells us. Our job is to tell the truth and sound the alarm to whoever is willing to hear the truth. Now, some people, you can lead a horse to water, right? But you can't make him drink. You can tell people the truth, but that doesn't mean that they're going to accept it. But our job is just to tell the truth. That's what we try to do on here. CNBC reports that a brand new strain of the virus is spreading like wildfire, they say, in South Africa. Nowhere else in Africa now, just South Africa. Do you remember last week how we talked about how South Africa is the only African nation that's highly vaccinated? That's just the truth. You can look it up. So by that nation being the only nation on the continent that is around 50% vaccinated, and they're the ones that are having this new strain just infect everybody. Is that a coincidence? I'll let you guys think about that, but I don't think that it's a coincidence at all. Headlines: New virus strain in Israel. Prime Minister Bennett issues statement, quote, "We are on the verge of an emergency situation." Reuters, who you can pretty much count on to give you the truth, they report that 89.1% of the population in Israel has had at least one shot. So almost 90% of the population is vaccinated, and they're worried to death about this new strain of the virus. Bloomberg and BBC, they report that flu and COVID cases on the rise exponentially in the United Kingdom. Quote, "For over a year, people have been social distancing, wearing a mask, and 95% of the population has had at least one shot. Why are sicknesses increasing?" End quote. Well, I can tell you why. Because their immune system is so weakened from walking around with a mask and hiding in the basement for a year that their body has lost all capability of fighting off anything. That's just common knowledge. Is when you're exposed to these things, your body builds up a type of immunity, and you're easily able to fight it off. That's why a couple hundred years ago, when the Europeans came over here, you know, entire races of people were wiped out by the common cold because they had no immunity to it. They couldn't fight it off. It's the same concept. When these people, their immune system is so weakened that now when they're exposed to anything, they catch it. That's just that's just how it works. Uh, your system, when your system is weakened, that's why some of the older and the sicker people that had underlying issues early on when this virus first hit, it was really hitting them hard. See, because their system was already weak. Well, it's the same concept when you intentionally weaken it by not going around anything. So I believe that that's why in the UK and some of these places the flu is just everywhere now. Everybody's sniffling and sick because they hadn't been around anything. Uh, these people know, these people know this stuff. This is not advanced education on sicknesses. People know this. So the point is they want us to stay fearful and nervous so we will more easily obey their orders. It's just how it is. I told you that, in the Art of War by Sun Tzu, it's what he said. Fearful people are easy to organize. Yes, they are. Australia, man, I hadn't brought them up in a while because they were kind of leveling off on the crazy, but it has went nutso in Australia. They are actually rounding up a lot of the native population, the Aborigines. But a lot of these guys are not taking the shot. They're not obeying them. So what they're doing, the Australian government is sending the military out there, like in the Northern Territories where there's no deaths, zero in Australia around the Aboriginal tribes. There's no deaths. The government has sent the military in there, rounding up these people and actually taking them to camps, taking them to these internment centers, rounding them up against their will. You need to read some of this stuff in Australia, man. They went nuts about this. But that's what's going on down there. Just because the people will not take the shot. Nobody's dying. There's not this tremendous increase in sickness. These people are hardy. They're tough people. But they won't take that shot. And the government is now rounding people up, putting them in camps. Several places that you can find that. It's pretty bad. And now you got protests all over Europe. This was on the news yesterday and today. Got these fires everywhere. People are protesting and marching about the mandate. A lot of people are fighting back on this, and the governments are not giving up. They're still pushing it. They're still fighting it. Even when you see these numbers about these highly vaccinated nations that are just being overrun with this virus, they don't care. They want you to take the shot. They want you to obey. That's all it's about now. That's what I said last week. This isn't about medicine anymore. This isn't about public health. It's about obedience. It's about government control. And Australia's proven that, without a doubt. But if you think that the fear-mongering is bad now, you just wait until we start getting a little closer to next year's midterm elections. Oh my goodness. They've got to come up with something to scare people to death, to make you more dependent upon the government, to where you will not want a change, where you'll want to keep who's in there. That's what they're going to do. So, I hate to say it, but I don't believe we've seen anything yet, because some of these policies have made a lot of people mad, and they know that if people are just allowed to have a normal election where the issues are discussed and debated, that these left-wing socialist policies will fail. People will not vote for that. So they've got to do something. That's just common sense. So hang on, guys. Tighten your saddle up. It's going to get a little rougher, I believe. Here's another good point. The Blaze reports Santa Cruz County, California is now requiring face coverings. Listen to this, guys. It's not crazy yet, is it? But they're requiring face coverings at all indoor settings, including your private home. Yeah, you heard that right. Inside your house, you personally, if you live in Santa Cruz County, California, you are supposed to wear a mask inside your own house. That's a law that they passed out there. I mean, are you kidding me? There are so many questions here. How are they planning on enforcing that? I think it's going to be like the Canadian deal and the Australian deal, remember? To where they're going to expect your neighbors to keep a watch out and tell on you. Can't you just hear that? 911, what's your emergency? Hey, this is Karen, and Sam is in his kitchen not wearing a mask. How else are they going to police it? How else are they going to keep up with it? This is crazy stuff, man, but that's what they're doing. I mean, who in the right mind is going to tell you what you have to do inside your house? Guess who? California is. That's why half of California is left and moved to Texas. The other half's probably on the way now. It's crazy. That's what they're doing. You know, I bring this up all the time. I just assume that you guys have read the book. But I remember that it was required reading when I was in high school. But if you haven't read George Orwell's book, 1984, you need to read that. And if it's been a while, you need to reread it. Because everything that happened in that book is like a guideline for what these guys are doing now. That's what's happening now. To where Big Brother's watching you everywhere. Your neighbor tells on you. Everybody is required to tell on each other. I mean, you really should reread that book if you haven't in a while. It might clear up what's really going on here. I want to I got to look at Russia for just a minute. We don't touch on them too often, but this is important. They had a coal mine explosion this week that has killed 52 people, and they have 38 also that's still missing. I saw on the news before I came up here and got ready to do this that they said that they don't have much hope that they're going to find any survivors out of that 38. So that 52 is going to get a lot higher. And a lot of the people that died out of that 52 were actually on the rescue mission that were going down there trying to help save some of the ones that were trapped. It was I think a type of gas explosion down there that ignited some of the coal dust, and it was just bad. But we need to remember those people. There's a lot of hurting people over there right now. But the truth is, they really just don't have a lot of the safety protocols and the stuff like we have over here. So when you get into some of these other countries, when you go to deal with mining, it can be pretty dangerous, a life and death situation. So that's what happened over there. But this is at the same time when Russia is conducting a massive buildup of troops on the border with Ukraine. That's been all over the news. I'm sure that you've seen that. The U.S. And England, along with a few other nations, have said that they would support Ukraine if Russia invaded. There's been a tremendous military buildup on the border. Who in the world knows what Putin's going to do? Vladimir Putin is he's a wild card. You just don't know. But Russia has really, really wanted to retake the Ukrainian area for years. So they've been bullying them. They've been trying to pressure them. Maybe he feels that the time is right now with old Sleepy Joe at the wheel. He knows he's not going to do anything to stop him, except a lot of threatening. I just know that I don't want any of our boys to go over there and, get caught up in the middle of basically a civil war between Ukraine and Russia. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that Joe has the stomach for that. We may lob a few missiles over there if Russia does invade Ukraine. Ukraine has a pretty substantial military. They can fend them off for a little while, but we'll probably lob a few missiles and nothing is going to really come of it. It'll be a good TV op, to say that we did something to help Ukraine. But I don't think that Biden will do anything substantial. I really don't. The truth is, just like Taiwan, when they're dealing with China right now, China can take Taiwan whenever they want to. That's just the truth. Taiwan's a little small island. They cannot defend very long against China. And China's going to seems like they're going to just go ahead and take Taiwan. And that's what Russia's going to probably do with Ukraine. And the truth is, Ukraine or Taiwan, they're on their own. They really cannot count on the United States to help them at all. Look at what we did in Afghanistan. We left our own people over there. I mean, do you really think that we're going to just go all in to help somebody else? And these people know that. They know that you can't trust us right now. We're not going to help anybody. We can't help ourselves. The Jerusalem Post, quote, Bennett, that's the prime minister, Bennett is afraid of friction with the U.S. is the reason he's holding off on the plans to bomb Iran's nuclear facility. Now, I'm sure at their last meeting is when Biden told him not to conduct an attack. Israel needs us for our money support, our military support. Everybody knows that. So Israel, they will hesitate if the United States just has a firm no. The nuclear talks are supposed to start on Monday the 29th. Now, Israel's not going to hold off forever. We need to keep watching this one. I missed the date on it. I sure thought it would happen before now. But they are not going to allow Iran to get a nuclear weapon, regardless of what Biden has told Bennett. Politico and the Freedom Center report the story of David Greenfield. He's an investigative journalist. I don't know if you guys know much about this. I don't talk about it much. But it's called the 1630 Fund. It's a dark money machine used by the Democrat Party to funnel money in without it being easily traced or detected, right? It's like a way to get around some of the stuff you have to do. Now this group, this guy Greenfield found this out, and he's reporting on it all over the world now, but this group spent $410 million in the 2020 election to defeat Trump. Well, you say, well, people spend a lot of money, right? Here's what he found. Half of that money was given by three guys. Three guys gave right at $200 million. George Soros, who's originally from Austria. We all know that name, right? Pierre Omidyar, he's an Iranian that now lives in Hawaii. And Hansard Weiss, he's from Switzerland, the richest man in Switzerland. He's got a house in Hawaii also. Now these guys are determined to destroy America because we stand for freedom. We're the last bastion. That's what Ronald Reagan said, that it just never left my mind. He said, if we fail here, there's nowhere else to go. And these people know that. Are they demonically influenced? Well, I don't know. I know without a doubt that George Soros is beyond wicked. He may be one of the most wicked people since Hitler. So George Soros definitely could be. Satan doesn't need a lot of people. He just needs the right people. Like when you think about that. So you got these three billionaires dumping all this money into this secret slush fund to have things done the way that they want them done. We'll see. But CNBC also reports that Biden has asked the appeals court to immediately lift the order that stops the vaccine mandate. He wants you to be forced to get that shot. He's not going to stop. No word yet on what they'll do. With the holidays and all, this might drag out a while. But they're not going to stop trying to force this gene therapy experiment on everybody. That's what it is. All over the world, in other countries, that's what they're calling it. I reported on that last week. The Guardian also reports that Biden announced, I can't believe this, but he announced that he's running for re-election in 2024. He'll be 83 at the time, so I don't know. He's going to run again, is what he said. But 18 states so far have enacted around 30 new voting laws. You can find that on the Brennan Center site. But 18 states now have some type of new enforcement as far as voting because of the 2020 debacle that we went through. So it's going to be a little harder for some of them to cheat. Texas and Georgia, they've done a lot of different things, so it's going to be harder for them to cheat. But, don't forget, Nancy Pelosi in the House, they are still trying to push this insanity of this new voter law pushed through. So if they get that passed, then these states, these laws that these states have passed won't mean anything. We got to talk about some woke news. I didn't get a chance to do much of that last week before I ran out of time, but you guys see where New York City Hall now had the statue of our third president, Thomas Jefferson, removed. That statue's been there for 187 years. The commission voted 8-0 to have it removed. They all agreed. Because of Thomas Jefferson at one time having owned slaves, is what they said. Never mind that he wrote the Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson wrote the most famous document in history. We don't care about that. Don't matter that he secured the Louisiana Purchase, which doubled the size of the United States. We don't care about that. No, he's just canceled. That's what they did. They canceled the third president of the United States. And the Salvation Army, I hope you guys have saw this. If not, I'm not going to have time to go in depth on this. Please look it up. But the Salvation Army has went completely CRT woke crazy. Please go look this up. But they issued a statement. They've got a new board of directors or something. They got some new guys on there that are new and different. They issued this statement. They said, if you're white, when you give a donation, you should leave a note apologizing for being a racist. That's what the Salvation Army said. Just because you're white, you're a racist. That's what CRT is. That's why these people have fought so hard to keep it out of the public school system, because it's insanity. When you have went from segregation that Martin Luther King fought so hard to get rid of, now they're trying to reverse it and segregate us all again mentally. Salvation Army says that they want your money and an apology. You have to put an apology in there with your money that says, I'm sorry for being a racist. Didn't know it was, but you say I am, so I must be one, so I'm sorry. I have a feeling that the Salvation Army is about to go bankrupt. This is insanity. Look it up, Salvation Army embracing CRT. The Federalist International Olympic Committee has issued a new ruling that allows nations to send any athlete who claims to identify as female to compete in all women's sports, quote, effectively spelling the end of women's Olympic sports, and I'd agree with them. Look that up on the Federalist. Biden administration is also attempting to end all cash bail. All they want you to be able to do is sign your signature and you can get out. No more posting bail. You get arrested, sign it, walk off. That's what they want you to do. There's a good story out of Atlanta that I'm not going to have time to get into, but the mayor establishes this guaranteed income program. It'll start with 300 people who receive $500 a month for 12 months. It's a pilot program. They say is an innovative solution to economic insecurity and income inequality. That is socialism, folks. I believe in helping people just like anybody else. But when you guarantee income because of income inequality, you're taking from this person, giving to that person with no stipulation. You don't have to do anything for it. We're just going to take it from them and give it to them. That is socialism. I just don't have time to get into some of this stuff. I hate it, guys. I hate the time limit, but let's always remember, let's stay positive. Let's be aware. That's what I try to do, is let you know what's going on. Let's just be aware, be alert. Don't let it bother you. But let's stay positive, and let's be a good influence on those around us, right? The best thing that we can do, every day is to just try to be more and more like Jesus. That's what we need to do. Read you a quick verse, John 12:26. Jesus said, if any man serve me, let him follow me. And where I am, there shall also my servant be. If any man serve me, him will my Father honor. That's all we need to do, folks, is just try to be more and more like Jesus. That's what the word Christian means, is Christ-like. So let's just try to be more Christ-like, and let's be a watchman on the wall and tell people what's really going on. Thank you guys for listening. Hope you have a great weekend. Hope I gave you something to think about and look up, verify this stuff. Hope you guys go to church Sunday. By all means, y'all keep reading your Bible. Thanks.